Today I have Portra 400 that we're going to be developing, but this process is the same across the board if you are developing C41 film. I know that my film is C41 because it says it here on the roll. When you purchase film, it's going to tell you what developer you need in order to process it. So for this Portra 400, the back of my box says C41. So today I'm going to be using Cinestill's C41 powder kit. I love this stuff. I've used it for all of the color film that I've developed and it has not led me wrong yet. The next thing you're going to need is a reel per roll of film. So if you have 5 rolls of film, you're going to need 5 reels. A tank that is going to hold those reels. Make sure that whatever tank you have holds the proper number of reels. The next thing you're going to need is some kind of sink or basin to hold your water at a constant temperature. I am using a sous vide to help keep my water at a constant temperature. I have the Joule sous vide, but you want something that is going to be reliable so you don't have any fluctuations in the temperature that could cause your film to not turn out or develop the way that you want it to. I currently have my film set at 102 degrees, which is what Cinestill recommends. They send you this chart so that you have a reference right in front of you to be able to develop your film. And this is going to be for standard developing. Your next step in the developing process is going to be to put your film on reels and then put your reels into the developing tank and put the lid on top of the tank, seal it so no light gets in, and all of that will be done in a changing bag. I'm going to show you how to do that outside of the changing bag so that you know how to do it. It is something that you should practice with a roll of film that has already been developed so that you have experience rolling your film onto the reels. When you cannot see your hands, it does become a little bit stressful if you have not practiced doing this before. Practice several times until you feel confident about being able to do it with your eyes closed, honestly. That's the way that I learned, and it really helped me out when I was first learning how to do this. I'm going to show you what it looks like to take your film out of the protective layer of paper that you seal it with when you are shooting a roll of 120 or medium format film, but I'm also going to show you how to take a roll of 35mm and put it onto a reel. Remember that all of these steps we are about to do are going to be done in your changing bag. They are not going to be done in the light. If you take your film out in the light, it's going to expose the film and all of your pictures will be gone. So do not do that. When you're practicing, only use a roll of film that has already been developed by a lab or by yourself so that you're not losing those pictures. You're going to break this seal right here, and I like to set my fingers on the inside of the roll to catch the film as I am unrolling it. You're just going to pull this paper tab in the dark. You're in your changing bag. Okay. You're going to pull this paper until you catch your film. There it is. This is also a good example of showing you how close that film actually sits to the edge of the paper. So when you're removing your film from your camera, or for whatever reason when you're sealing the film, if you're not pinching that until that seal has completely secured, you're potentially letting light into the edge of the paper, and you really don't want to do that because you're going to get light leaks on the film that you can't do anything about. We're at the end of the film. You're going to have a piece of masking tape that is holding your film onto this paper. You're going to take the masking tape off, but you want to make sure that when you do this, you do it slowly, because pulling that tape fast can cause an arc and it can expose your film because your film is super sensitive to light. The way I do this is I grab the corner of the film and just peel it back, and I'm going to slowly pull the tape as close to the film as possible to prevent that arc from happening. And I'm going to put it on the back of my hand. Set your paper and your reel aside. I usually put it in the back of my changing bag. Throughout this whole process, you should not put your film down. And I say this because I have known people to accidentally develop the paper thinking that it was film because they set both of them down and the one they picked up was not their film, but rather their protective paper backing. And when they opened the door to the darkroom, they saw their film lying on the table and realized what they had just done. This reel has a tab that I will push down, and the film is going to go in on the opposite side, and it's going to hold the film in place so that I can roll it around the reel. There are different styles of reels you can use. Patterson makes a plastic version, and they also have a plastic canister. They are systems that are meant to work with each other, so if you go with a metal reel, make sure you get a metal canister It's not going to work if you mix and match. For this style of reel, you're going to take the end of your film that's still in your hand and you're going to slide it into the other side of that tab. So it's going to look something like this. When I do this, I'm checking in the dark to see if the film that's on the other side of this metal bar is even all the way across. If that part of the film is not even all the way across, you're going to notice that the film crinkles while you are rolling it around the reel. If it wrinkles, it's going to touch whatever film is sitting on top of it, and you're going to have issues with developer. It's going to cause marks on the film that kind of look like milky white spots. It's going to ruin the picture. Be patient with it. It's going to take a second for you to get quick at doing this, but it's worth it when you get it down and you get the hang of it. I'm going to slightly bow the edges of my film while I'm rolling it. This just helps it not get caught on the reel while I'm rolling it. I'm also going to be running my finger back and forth across the film to make sure that I don't have any parts of the film that have crinkled. And I'm going to show you what it looks like if that does happen. You can see if I go like this, it kind of starts to like do this situation. And that's because it's not even all the way across. It's caught in a weird way. It just doesn't want to roll properly. Unroll it a little bit and then reset this part right here so that it's even and it rolls properly. Once the film is towards the end of the reel, when you're rolling it, it's going to make a sound as it clicks into place. That is something you're going to want to listen to make sure that it is seated all the way. Because if this tab does not sit down in the reel when you're developing, you're going to also have issues. It could scratch your film. There are a bunch of different things that could happen. So make sure that when you're done, just sort of clicks into place. And then you can go ahead and take this and put it into the developing tank. As many as the developing tank will hold. And you're going to put the lid on, you're going to press the lid into place, and then you're going to remove it from the changing bag and get ready to start developing. The process for putting film onto reels for 35mm film, the same rules apply. You cannot mix metal and plastic. Developing systems, if you're going to use plastic, stick with plastic. If you're going to use metal, stick with metal. With 35mm film, you're going to have sprocket holes. And this reel has these little pegs where those sprocket holes are going to sit. You're going to bow the film slightly, just like you did with the medium format film. Put those sprocket holes over the pegs and start rolling the same way you did with the medium format. If you pull a little bit of tension and you notice that it's not going anywhere, you're good to go. You're gonna run your finger across the top of the film as you're rolling it to make sure there aren't any crinkles in it. And if you notice that there are, back up, roll it again so that it sits properly in the reel. And again, with the end, you're going to hear that little click as the film sits into place. If you have rolled your film correctly, it should be sitting almost flush with the edge of the reel. That goes for medium format and 35mm film. If you've rolled the film too tightly, it's going to sit much further in the reel and you'll know that you've done it too tight. The film is probably touching itself. You need to undo what you've done and re-roll the film so that it sits almost flush with the edge when you're done. And again, same process. You're going to take that reel, put it into a developing tank, and then you're going to put the lid on. For developing tanks, there are different amounts of reels that will fit into different developing tanks. For this tank, it will hold two 35mm reels, but it will only hold one medium format reel. If the number of reels of film you are developing does not fill up the entire tank, you need to put an empty reel in that space so that your reels are not moving around in the tank as you develop. You should now have your film on reels in a developing tank with a lid on. You don't have to have the cap on the lid, but you do need to have the lid sealed so that no light is getting into the tank. And slightly angle your developing tank when you are pouring the water in to allow it to fall into the canister better. One way to know that the canister is full or ready for you to put the lid on when you're pouring chemicals into the tank, you will see it slightly while you are pouring. This is just water, but you can see it start to pull up when the tank is tilted. That's when you know you have enough. We're going to agitate our water that is 102 degrees for 1 minute. I do have a timer going. It's a good idea for you to have a timer or a clock that you can watch, and you're gonna need to be pretty accurate with the timing on your developing. If you're not, the film is not going to develop properly and your pictures are not going to come out the way that you want to. And that's 1 minute. You can pour that water down the drain. It's going to be green. Next, we're going to pour our developer into our tank. Same as the water, checking to see if it's full by tilting the tank, and we are going to develop for 3.5 minutes. You do want to avoid agitating too vigorously or shaking the tank too hard because it does affect the grain on your film. So be gentle while you're doing this. You're going to agitate continuously for the first minute with the developer, and then after that, every 30 seconds, you will agitate 5 times. You can test whether or not your developer is still good by pouring some of it into a container like a measuring cup and taking an undeveloped piece of film and putting it in the developer for 3.5 minutes. Your film should turn from the coppery brown color on the back to a black gray color. If that does not happen, if your film does not change color, it means that the developer is no longer good and you need to replace it. I do this every single time I develop my film. I have lost rolls of film and images because I did not do this, and trust me, it is not worth it. With the Blix, you're going to agitate continuously for the first minute, and then every 30 seconds you'll do 5 agitations and set it down. While you are doing the Blix, you should be burping the cap. There's something that happens when you agitate Blix that causes a lot of pressure inside of the tank, and if you are not burping it, the whole lid will pop off, and it is not a fun process. Blix will stain your clothes, it will stain anything that it touches, and if the process of Blix is not complete in your developing, then it's going to ruin your film if it's exposed to light. So just take the cap and burp it a little bit so that that pressure is released, and then agitate 5 times, burp it, so on and so forth until your 8 minutes is up. Blix also smells pretty bad, so it's not a bad idea for you to wear a mask. Breathing in these chemicals is not a good idea. I'm on camera, so I'm not wearing a mask right now, but typically I would be wearing one. Once the 8 minutes for the Blix is done, you're going to pour it back into your storage container. I like to use a funnel to do this to help keep everything contained. Next, you're going to do a 3-minute water bath. You can now take the lid off of your tank. To do our photo flow, this is the stabilizing stage of the developing process. You're going to slightly agitate this for 30 seconds. It's going to help preserve your film. Last, but certainly not least, you're going to remove your film from your reel, and you're going to remove any excess liquid that is still sitting on the film. This is going to allow the film to dry without water spots. So one of these, I usually do a few, and now it's time to hang and dry. I hang mine on a shower rod in a bathroom. You want to put some type of weight on the bottom of the film to help keep the film straight. These are paper clips that I got from Staples. You can purchase film weight clips, but this was a lot less expensive and it works just as good. Make sure that you're spacing your strips of film far enough apart that they're not going to touch when they dry. If you do put them too closely together so that they can touch, it's going to be really difficult for you to pull them apart, and it's probably going to ruin your film. And also, it's probably going to take a few hours. Know that in advance. You will know when it is dry, when it's no longer tacky when I squeeze it, so that means that it is ready for me to pull down and scan in. That's going to vary depending on where you are and what environment you live in, but give it time. It's going to take time. That's it for today's video. I hope you learned something and you take what you've learned and you go home and you develop film on your own. If you do that, please don't forget to leave a comment down below and let me know how that went. I'll make sure I have everything we used today in the description down below so you have access to it as well. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. My name is Tilly Scholl, and I'll catch you on the next one.